twice as high. In a book, to take a look, reading anywhere. In a book, to take a look, reading rainbow. I can be anything. In a book, take a look, reading rainbow. Reading rainbow.
Hello. Okay. I'm excited today. Nervous, but excited because I'm gonna make one adjustment. Because I did work on the setup a little bit. Worked on the setup a little bit this time. Trying something new, seeing where it goes. So yeah. Well, it's not really new. It's just I don't know. You know what I mean. I want to continue reading this book today. because I've been thoroughly enjoying it, and I know that my audience has as well. There is an audience that likes the part of me that tells stories, and so it's good to be able to read this because we're still getting like the same messages that we teach on this channel, except in the form of fiction. And fiction is pretty entertaining. You know, I remember like, I think if we're to kind of recap from what happened last time, it was mostly like this journalist who I think his name Haraki. Let me see. Demos Haraki, yes. So Demos Haraki was, you know, a journalist, or is a journalist, or whatever, trying to be as impartial as possible. And, you know, it's just, he learns about the people in the ranks of the Imperial Army, and, you know, he befriends a few people, he learns a few people, gets to learn about, I think his name is Dolan Wilder, or Don Wilder, or some shit like that. So there's that one. And then they all get killed, or a portion of their army gets killed, and he's with like I forget the name of the group, but it's like this anarchist collective that recruits him, or like, you know, says, hey, you can either stay or you can go, but we're leaving. Like, nothing that we ever, like, it was interesting, like, because they were saying like these anarchists, like, they don't own the territory, you know, they don't own anywhere that they live. They're just like, I don't know who even lived here before me. I'm just shunting here. I'm actually about to take off for the winter, is what these anarchists were saying. And it was like, oh, okay, well, I better head off too. They gave me a cot, they gave me some food. Okay, they didn't kill me either. But yeah, and it's just like, I don't exactly remember what happens after that. I don't remember if like he made it back, or if he met up with the army after that, or if he like met new characters. I don't know. That's the part that I forgot, is like the second half, if you will. So before we begin, let's talk about a few things. Make sure you're drinking water. I'm sweating bullets. You can kind of see that I'm just like, I'm ugly as hell today. but yo, you should be drinking some water. I'm just like sweating in here. I tried to get some ventilation. The window's not going to open, and like, you know, it is what it is. Plus, I have this up. I wanted this to be a nice stream, you know, but I'm willing to make some compromises, I suppose. Plus, I haven't been doing well lately, like, you know, just health-wise. I'm worried about money shit right now. Like, it's bullshit. I hate being poor. So, like, if you can, if you can put, like, if you can go to the description, see the Ko-Fi link, that's the best way to be able to send me funds, to be able to support myself. If you like what I do here on this channel, read you these books, and also, excuse me, to do like these video essays and stuff, it helps me a lot, helps the channel, and I can continue to give these messages out. So anyway, I'm going to continue reading this. So, just as usual, remember, I keep the chat off. I mean, y'all can still chat, but whenever I do this, whenever I read, and whenever I'm focusing on reading, the chat is turned off for me. I don't look at chat. So, that way I can focus on my reading. So if you're like asking a question, you're like, hey, why the fuck aren't you answering this question? It's like, yo, calm down, okay? Like, I will get to you during my breaks. Sometimes I do check chat occasionally, be like, okay, hey, what's chat saying? But like, if I'm not like getting to your question about like how to make the best peanut butter and jelly banana sandwiches in like 2 minutes, then like, I'm sorry, honey, like, I'll do the best I can to get to your question. You know, it's just like, it'll happen when I take breaks. I do take breaks. I sometimes check chat if I'm curious on what chat thinks of a certain thing that's going on right now. So chill, you know. Gonna be okay. We're gonna make it. We're gonna tread on. You know, we tread on. That's our motto here on Anarchist Cat Food. We tread on. Oh my goodness. Anyway, so this is to remind y'all, this book was written by Margaret Killjoy, who is a trans anarchist feminist, and she has written other books and has participated in podcasts, mainly about fiction and also about socialism and anarchism, stuff like that. So I would look into Margaret Killjoy if you like this content that we're presenting to you today. So we're on chapter 6, and I want to make it clear what my intention is for today. I want to read from chapter 6 all the way to chapter 9. We're going to stop at chapter 9. It looks, from what I saw, it looks a little bit over 30 pages. But it's like not quite 40. It's a little over, like maybe 34 to 37 pages, something like that. But anyway, if you have the book or if you're reading off a PDF, which is foolish me, I forgot to supply the PDF link in the description. Sure, it's on Google if you look. I apologize. I think I may have posted it in a previous episode. But anyway, there is a map at the beginning. I just want to make sure that y'all know that there is a map at the beginning of the book. Right here. I also did find a picture of the map online, if you want to check that out. The map is on, like there's a PDF of it. So if you want to take a look at that map, it's there. Anyway, chapter 6, on page 51. Cool beans, let's do this. I'm excited. The way back to Wilder's camp was lit by a waning half-moon. Unlike conquerors, the actual residents of the mountains felt no need to ride during the daylight. I rode alone on a mountain pony, while most of the rest of us went double on horses, and almost 24 serric shepherds padded silently alongside. Our moon shadows stretched far in front of us, and in that company I felt powerful. Nola and Soros. For the record, when we say Soros, we do not mean George Soros. We mean like it's Soros with 2 R's, okay? We're not talking about George Soros. Calm down. Anyway, Nola and Soros shared a black thoroughbred mare, and I most often rode alongside them, though sometimes I lagged back for a bit of solace. We spent a week on the march, camping during the day in caves and or thicker dark thickets. My bad. Okay. We skirted towns, afraid our presence might provide an excuse for reprisal. Scouts, however, visited settlements almost every day and returned laden with provisions. One day, while eating mountain blackberry jam spread over fresh bread, I realized that food given freely tasted objectively better than food taken by force. The way you make decisions, I asked Soros over dinner one morning. Is no one in charge? No one is in charge. We're all here because we want to be, or because we felt like we need to be. And we're all risking our lives. Why would it be appropriate for one person to tell me how I'm going to end my life? Shouldn't that be my own decision? There is no authority but yourself. There you go. Anyway, that's not in the book, by the way. I just pointed at my crass symbol, my symbol for like the band Crass. You should check them out. They're good. I'll tell you this, like the sound is a bit of an acquired taste. I didn't like them at first, I'll be honest with you, but I ended up liking them over time. They're pretty good. And then they actually asked like what looks like here is like a pretty obvious question people ask when trying to like learn about anarchism, right? Is how do you get anything done? I ask. I wasn't ready to tackle the ethical argument he presented because I had never considered it before. You've seen it, he answered. We listen to one another and discuss things in council at home. Decisions with a lot of people take a while. Here in the free company, we try to speed things up a bit. I nodded, but I didn't really understand. While none of the free company was initially freely with me, I had days to observe them, and I started to distinguish between them. They became individuals instead of a mass of nervous armed strangers. Which, to be fair, they also were. By the look of them, they were almost in their early 20s, like myself. Though there were several among them with gray or white hair. The oldest was a woman, mostly like within her 60s. Most people respected her, but were maybe a bit afraid of her too. She was quiet most of the time, yet when she spoke, people listened. The rest of the elders rode together, but she rode alone on the front, her shotgun never far from her hand. Then there was a group of 5 youth that stuck together every hour of the day. The youngest couldn't have been 16. The oldest might convince me she was 20 if she swore on her life. Everything was a game to them. During the day, they sat around camp and told stories and inside jokes. At night, they rode ahead or lingering behind. And they declared adventure hour and took their leave of us every night when we took our midnight lunch. 2 of the youngest were musicians, and they played together almost half the day. Every day, while writing or resting, one had a concertina. I've never heard of that. I guess I don't know what a concertina is. specific kind of concertina. Concert. I don't know. I never seen that word before. Interestingly, the other a fiddle, and they played complex, fast melodies, like of which I have never heard. The rest of the militia, to my surprise, accepted the youth. No one attempted to dampen their fun. Myself, I was quite happy for the levity they brought to the trip. They reminded me of my wild youth, the months I spent on the run from the grinder. No one knew quite what to do with me. That was plain. Some people treated me like a prisoner, others like a stranger. The oldest woman was perhaps the cruelest of the bunch. It was plain she didn't trust me. But she wore a necklace of human teeth around her neck, a style I hadn't seen on anyone else. And I was reasonably sure the distrust was mutual. Holy shit. Damn. On the third night we stopped at the ruins of Sartoris, and I thought my heart was going to crawl out of my throat to lay among the ashen remains of this village. So Sartoris, let's look for Sartoris on this map here. Right here. So it's a little bit north. I think we were like going down here for a little bit, right? So like here. Sartoris is right here. Right there. You can see it, yeah. I think like they were south of that before. Or at least that's where the main character, the protagonist, that's where he was hanging out for a little bit. Many in our community wept as they picked through the rubble, and I longed for death in a more tangible way than I ever have, before or since. I had done this. I had destroyed an entire community. We didn't camp there. Thank the heavens. I had no idea what I might have done. Strangely, this sense of sin renewed my courage for the assault against the Imperial forces. Disregard as to whether I lived or died did wonders to steel my resolve. It was weeks or months more before the last spark of my patriotism flickered out, but the burning of Sartoris and being sent to death by Dolan Wilder, okay, not Don Wilder, Dolan Wilder. Being sent to death by Dolan Wilder had certainly changed my priorities. We rode across the mountains on frozen nights. I felt a hate growing in me I hadn't felt in years. I wanted to see Dolan Wilder die. That's a mood. I'm gonna leave it at that. On the fourth day, we camped under the leaves of an ancient maple grove. The youth, with their concertina, invited me to sit with him and his friends. They introduced themselves to me. There was Graham, who had invited me, and Dory, his sister, Joslek, a handsome and shy young man I felt just slightly too old for. Evana, the youngest, who plays fiddle, and Dessel. It was Dessel who I came to know the best, the soonest. She was a heavy-set woman with smart eyes and aura of tight black curls that framed her head. She was, without a doubt, the wisest of them, and perhaps the wisest person I've met. If you'll pardon me for the risk of hyperbole, she couldn't have been more than 17. You cried last night in Satoris, she said to me. Why? I began to tell her about riding with the man on top, with the top hat. But she cut me off. I know about that. I was there. I saw you. All 5 of us grew up there. The Holorats, the family they killed, were my second cousins. You're the kid with the open throat, was my friend. But you weren't the one who did it. I didn't stop them, I said. Neither did I, she replied. Dessel cut an apple in 2, her boot knife, and offered me half. I took it, bit into it. It was more tart than sweet, but ripe nonetheless, and the juices ran down my growing beard. You can have your guilt, she said, if it makes you feel better, or if you like the way that it makes you feel worse, whatever it takes for you to learn to carve distance between and the place you're from the soldiers who speak your mother tongue. That's alright, but when your guilt stops feeling useful, you better let it go. It can fester and ferment in your belly. Holy shit, that is some holy shit. You know, the wisest person that this fucking main character knows. Holy shit, that is definitely correct. Holy shit, that kid is the smartest person in this book so far. I'm not even kidding. She is the smartest person in the damn book. A+. I need a drink from that. I'm drinking soap right now, like bath soap. Nah, just kidding. I'm drinking juice. It's just water and juice. But okay, and you know what? I should probably not say that. I was gonna say something Tide related. I don't think I want to go there, especially with the way Tide kind of turned into. Had to do with my childhood and, you know, the mental connection. But I think there's a real concern with that. But anyway, holy shit. So yeah, the reason why I think this is a really good point that this girl made in the book, about this guilt. I mean, think about it, right? Y'all who have experienced white guilt, so still called white guilt, in the past, you know what I'm talking about, right? So the reason why we bring this up is because, you know, white supremacy, I think it's a very, we don't need to get into it right now. I mean, obviously, we can easily come to the conclusion that white supremacy is unjustified, obviously. And I think that a lot of us, you know, we look at our previous behaviors in our lifetime and we're just like, wow, I was racist. I perpetuated all of this. And it's just that's when, you know, you get this sense of guilt, right? Well, from what I've learned over the years, it's better to acknowledge that, yes, you were not by any means someone to look up to back then, and maybe not even right now, who knows. But it's important that you don't use that white guilt with other people that are not white in a white supremacist system. You know, it comes off as like performative, like, and what I mean by that is that some people will say, oh my gosh, I was white. I'm sorry, I am white, and I benefit from this racist system, and I was racist here, and I did that there, and I was so clouded. And it's just like, not everyone's your therapist, you know. Like, I mean, you know, and I'm not saying that to, like, you know, say that you're a soy boy or whatever. That's not that. It's more like not everyone is equipped to, like, you know, help people process what it's, you know, this white guilt that they're going through. Not everyone really wants to, if I'm gonna be honest with you. Some of us don't really want to, you know. And it's also important that you have to come to that conclusion yourself, because it's like the big thing, and I think that being said in this book is that, like, it's good to feel bad for that stuff. That's not the issue. The issue is when you do something about it, you know? Like, if you're gonna be racist, I'm sorry, no, let me rephrase that. Don't be racist, first of all. That's just, yeah, don't be racist. But if you're gonna be, like, you know, going through an arc, so to speak, where, like, you realize, holy shit, like, I was reactionary as hell, you need to know that not only is it bad to perpetuate it, but it's also bad that it exists at all. You know, it's like, you know, I think so many people, they forget that, like, okay, you know, Marjorie Taylor Greene is racist and transphobic and all this stuff. And she's a white nationalist and Christian nationalist, and, you know, or if you want to call it nationalist Christian, you can shorten it by Nazi, you know, Natc, Nazi. Sorry, I had to. But, like, okay, and you're not Marjorie Taylor Greene, you're nothing like her, you know, but you gotta do something about it. You gotta do something about Marjorie Taylor Greene, because she's not gonna get any better. She's not wising up. She knows what she's doing. She knows. And it's just like, what are you gonna fucking do about it? That's the point. You gotta put yourself behind, like, you gotta put that behind you, you know. That has to be like a means to an end. That has to not be part of your identity, you know. Like, the atrocious acts that you did when you were younger, that can't be part of you today. Like, you can't reinforce that behavior that you are guilty about, and you can't make, like, your guilt, like, the one thing, you know. It's like, if you see a Nazi across the street, and let's just say you used to be a Nazi, it's just like, you're not gonna just sit across the street and be like, shit, I used to be a Nazi. I used to straight up just have a, you know, 1488 t-shirt on and shit. No, just go over there and punch the fucking Nazi. Are you kidding me right now? Like, in Wolfenstein, you know, like the new, you beat Nazis and shit. Like, what are you gonna fucking do? Like, why are you like letting that person stand there? You gotta go like from step 1 to step 2. You gotta jump to step 2 immediately. Like, I don't know. Anyway. Alright, let me see. I'm checking something really quick. So we have... Alright. We're gonna go to, like, chapter 7. Which is, like, a little bit over 10 pages. But, once we get there... Yeah. We'll take a break. And then all that stuff. Alright. Yeah. Just remember that, like, you know, performative, like, shaming of your white guilt is not, it's not a good look, It's just not a good look, and it's also stop white supremacy, I'm guilty of my own past sins because of my character, because of who I am. But also recognize your privilege. Recognize your privilege that, like that plays a part in that, and work to subvert that. That's the point. Actually, let me also check the chat. I'm serious. I'm curious about the chat, because we did talk a lot just now. Hold on. No? No chat. Okay, cool. Oops. It's a snooze fest today on my part, but that's okay. There we go. Let's do this. I nodded, therefore I rode with her and her friends, as often as with Soros and Nola. I went with them on Adventure Hour, exploring frozen creeks and scrambling up rock walls in the light of the waning moon, my bad. I was older than them, but since I didn't seem to have a problem acting like a kid, they didn't have a problem accepting me as one. Graham was about my size, and he gave me some clothes, wool pants, and a long shirt. They just call it a long shirt, it turns out. It felt good to get out of the uniform, but I held onto the greatcoat. The militia coats were just too formalist for me. It was just a little too formalist for me. The one exceptionally cold night, with 6 of us clamored behind a frozen water wall, my hands were so numb I barely felt it with a sharp rock cut through my glove and into my finger. Ooh. But I'd have risked more, much worse, for a chance to get that view. I've never seen anything like it. The falls had become a single frozen sheet, a cascade of icicles lit by the waning moon, and behind it was a semicircle, shelf carved from the cliff by thousands of years of water. Grim stalked around the cave with his concertina, listening to the acoustics, trying to find the best spot. Careful, Dory told him as he walked up to the icy edge of the shelf, the frozen falls just out of reach beyond. Listen, he said, then played a few long, slow notes, the lowest on his instrument. They carried throughout the half cave, and I felt them in my bones. Then Grim picked up the tempo, started into a mournful song, then over the course of minutes transformed it into a happy reel. He was dancing, everyone was smiling, but Dory, who watched her baby brother like a mother watches her child. When Grim slipped, she was up in an instant, lashing out her arm and catching him by the long shirt. His hat went over the cliff. Graham was suspended over the cliff's edge for a moment, and time was frozen like the waterfall. Then, with a deep Dory dragged her brother back from the edge and onto the shelf. The two collapsed. "Shit!" Graham said. "That was close. Be more careful," Dory said. "Please." The moment between the two was so private that the rest of us, well, at least I, felt like intruders. I turned to Dessel beside me. "I'll never figure out if I'm supposed to let worry get the best of me," she said, "because I don't want to fall off a cliff, but I don't want to risk never looking over the edge." I wish I had some wisdom that had come from age to share with her, but I had none. As we rode past landmarks, my young friends pointed them out to me. I learned a lot about the land from them, though I could never tell when they were speaking from experience or simply making things up. Either way, their sense of awe and excitement was infectious, and I had come to love the mountains almost enough that sometimes I forget we're marching to war. One day, we built a sauna out of canvas tarps, steamed it to hot stones, then ran naked from the near unbearable heat to jump naked into the near unbearable cold of the Jerris River. Another night, we stopped for midnight lunch in an open field and watched a meteor shower. I ran out of tobacco. One of my companions smoked. I have never been one to smoke more than one or thrice a day, but running out made me feel the more anxious. The final night was grim. We all rode close together, and keeping calm became a full-time endeavor for most of us. The moon was new. The stars were out. A tactical disadvantage, but looking at the constellation as we rode became my primary solace, as the fear and anxiety turned my stomach into knots and my thoughts into nightmares. We saw the cooked fires from a half-mile out, at least a dozen of them burning in a camp. A clear contradiction to General Wilder's stated policy. We dismounted and tied our mounts to trees. Cut through her tether halfway, Nola told me as I secured the pony. In case we hadn't returned, she'll be able to tear herself free. Two scouts returned and called us together, and the 30 of us formed a circle with 2 rows. The inner circle squatting, the outer circle standing. I stood in the outer row. 5 people faced outward, scanning the dark for enemies. We saw 2 sentries at the base of the path up the overlook. A man yelled, his dark skin darkened further by soot. They got a small fire and are playing cards. They might be drunk too, but they are definitely awake and playing Yu-Gi-Oh! No, that's not in the book. We're gonna send them to the Shadow Realm, everyone. And I'm sorry, I'm just memeing. There's likely another pair watching the first. Ekarna suggested. I found myself nodding along with the rest of the free company. Dora will smell them out. I'll cut their throats, a woman said. She patted a hound, presumably Dora. Flash a light when you're done, or if you can't find them, the first scout said. And we'll take the card players. The rest of us will wait just out of sight, Nola said. If we hear gunfire or an alarm, we'll start the battle. Otherwise, we'll wait for you to get back, then creep closer. Everyone nodded. In the starlight, faces were indistinguishable. What's more, many of the company had begun to don their masks. Identity became unimportant. Objection? Someone asked. There were none. That's Antifa going in to attack the fascists. Hell yeah, baby. Hell yeah. There are a hell of a lot more of them than there are of us, Nola said. Her voice took on a tone I'd never heard her use before. The general in her, I suppose. 10 to 1, but they're expecting us below in the main camp, and we know they're up top, peering over the edge. So we'll be behind them. Just give them a little push, and down they'll go. If at any point we find ourselves in a fair fight, I say we get out. Meet at yesterday's camp. Aye, someone says. Aye, more people murmured. We can do this, she said. With that, the circle broke. Soros handed me a balaclava, I guess. That's how you pronounce it. Balaclava? Never heard of that word. Is it binoculars? I don't know. And my old gun belt. If I lied, I asked? You didn't lie, he responded. But if you did, I'll kill you. We moved forward as a group, crouched low to hide our silhouettes until the scouts motioned us to stop. A dog and 3 people disappeared into the trees, and we waited. I want to describe to you what it felt like to wait there. knowing a signal meant both the start of the attack and that our advantage was lost. Knowing that I was a combatant in what most people would consider not my war, but the words that I have available don't seem adequate. Was I afraid? Perhaps were my bowels loose and did bile rise in my throat? Of course. My mind reached down towards that ember of hate in my belly. I wanted to stoke it up until it burned inside of me. But I couldn't find it, and yet I was a part of something. When I couldn't find courage within myself, I took it from the men and women around me. I had a pistol in hand and a mask over my face, and together we were going to kill a lot of people who would probably needed to die. No alarm went off, no gunshots rung out in the night. The same four silhouettes came back through the trees, and it was done. The guards had been silenced. We moved forward up to the overlook. Boris and Nola and I were at the back. On their own instances, my young friends formed the vanguard. I have no natural affinity for skulking through the underbrush. It turns out I spent so long disentangling myself from brambles that I was surprised I made it through the battle at all. When we reached the clearing at the top of the overhang, we saw scores and scores of low tents, some pitched against the side of the earthen bunker, some in the light ring outside of those. The mortars, to my relief, remained, but it was simple but essential, Nola told Soros and me. We hang back by this path and shoot anyone with a uniform we see. We're keeping our own escape clear and preventing theirs. We tread on, bitch. It's actually very fitting. Holy shit. Very, very, very fitting. I did not read ahead, by the way, but I figured that was where this was gonna go, so I decided to go with a vague message like that. And I was not wrong. We're treading on, baby. Excuse me, I burped, just a normal human function. It is what it is, you can't stop me. Okay, where was I? Okay. I nodded. It didn't seem as simple as she made it sound, but I checked my pistol. I'd never fired one before in my life, but it seemed an inopportune time to bring up that detail. It was loaded, and I knew the basic idea. I hope. Oh my god, be careful! Holy shit! Don't kill anyone that you don't intend to shoot. FYI. Don't point at anyone you intend to shoot at the very fucking least. Also, keep your finger off the trigger unless you intend to shoot. I'll also assume that it is loaded. You know what I mean? two shadowy torch wielders bolted out from the trees from either end of the clearing and crossed over to the camp. Within seconds, the outermost tents were ablaze, and the four arsonists moved towards one another, lighting every scrap of canvas in their path before we met in the middle. 20 bandits and 24 dogs tore out from the woods at a full run, screaming as they went. They broke into the camp and explosions went off. Howls of anguish cut through into the air. A burning man in this night clothes came down the path towards us, but before I could lift my gun, Soros had shot him dead. I don't like gunfighting. I know that now. It had nothing in common with a street brawl. I don't like being shot at, and in return, I even more strongly dislike shooting at people. Particularly when you shoot those people in the face, and their faces keep the same expression after they fall over, never to rise. Even when it's people I don't like very much, even strangers, but I shot at people I don't like very much, even strangers. But I shot at maybe like 30 people that night, and I probably killed 4 or 5 of them. Seeing the faces of men I killed more clearly in my dreams than I did in life. But I don't wake full of fear or guilt. Just perturbed? I never heard that word before, perturbed. The battle plane for mortally wounded in the first attack. Some took refuge in the bunker. It was near the end of it all that 2 more soldiers bursted out of smoldering tents towards the path we were covering. Nola shot one, but Soros' rifle jammed as he drew beads on the second. I shot him for less than 10 feet away, and he crumbled into the ground. A third figure, a tall man, ran next. A muzzle flash lit his face. Wilder. Wilder was there? That was Wilder? Holy shit. I raised my gun, and I'd like to think he'd even saw me or even recognized me. Soros shot him in the heart, and he fell backwards with a whimper that by rights I ought not have heard over the sounds of the battle. I broke from the trees and run over to him. And there he was, the man who had conquered Veronia, dead on the mountains. He lay low by peasants with a captured rifle. He was in his night clothes, his top hat clutched under his arm. I was through with hiding and strode into the field of combat. Inside the line tent was a chaos unfit for the stories of hell. Man lay as broken corpse. A dog chewed a man's face. Another dog stood over her dead master and howled. 2 men shot at me. I killed one of them, I think, and the other one was shot down by a woman bleeding from her neck, who, through the haze of smoke, I saw the militia forcing its way into a gap in the wall of the bunker. Gissel led me the charge and fell first, shot in the face by a man who was soon to die himself. Within seconds, it was over. The last remnants of His Majesty's forces came down with their hands above their head and were stripped guarded. We had won! The dead were all around us, ours and theirs, and the wounded cried in pain and stared blankly at their wounds. So many of us have been injured, including me, it turned out. A bullet from one side or another had struck my right arm, nearing the shoulder. And the cheer went up at the end of it all, a ragged thing, full-throated and loud and rasping. I joined in, and then I passed out. Awesome. That was pretty good, actually. Honestly, I kind of want to call it for tonight, because I felt good while reading that. I know that, like, reading for a long time, I get kind of tired, but, yo, that was pretty good, actually. I liked reading that. It was, like, just the sheer excitement of fucking getting the enemies. Yeah! Alright, so, definitely check out this book, A Country of Ghosts. Definitely pick it up. And then also, be sure to subscribe, hit the bell. Also, make sure that you check out the Ko-Fi link in the description. And yeah, because that will help me. I'm in a lot of need right now for, like, getting certain things taken care of. I'll try to read this again later this week. And yeah, I see somebody talking in chat. Let me see. It says here, Life with Midgen. That's the name of the user. Perturbed, adjective, agitated, disturbed. So it's a synonym for disturbed. Okay. Holy moly, such a scene. That's fair. Good stopping spot. You've been going for a long time. Holy shit, yes I have. I just noticed. 1 hour and 10 minutes. Holy shit. I'm glad that I'm glad that you enjoyed it, and I hope that you have a great rest of your night. Like I said, you should check out some of the other chapters we did on this book, the earlier ones, so you can catch up if you haven't already read it. But anyway, take care, friends. Take care, everyone. Bye-bye.